Mr. President, I come to the floor today to discuss the passage and the vote that's about to occur on the unemployment insurance extension bill. I have repeatedly said that the Senate should have a full and open debate on this important issue, and that debate should include the opportunity for those of us in the minority and perhaps those in the majority to offer amendments, changes that would, in their view, represent their people's view that they represent here in the Congress, amendments that could strengthen the bill and make it something better, something perhaps the House could consider since they have not taken up this legislation. Clearly, for those truly in need, for those who've played by the rules, the issue of extended unemployment is a legitimate issue for debate and for many here for passage. I have worked with not only my colleagues here on the Republican side of the aisle, but also with my Democrat colleagues to secure two things that would give me a better sense of where we're going, and I think provide for a better legislation, and legislation that perhaps could work its way through the Congress and onto the President's desk. Those two things were a legitimate pay for. Clearly, we're in a situation fiscally where if we can't offset new spending with spending on programs that have not proven their worth, and we're going to continue to spend more than we take in, we're going to continue to add to our national debt, going to continue to trod down the precipitous road to fiscal crisis. $17 trillion plus and counting in terms of ever accumulating debt and continued unbalanced budgets. You can only run a business, you can only run a family, you can only run a government so long when you do not make ends meet by having your revenues there to pay for your expenses. And so having a legitimate pay for was one of the criteria that I was trying to address along with my colleagues. And secondly, it was reforms of the program. It was the President himself that acknowledged publicly that the unemployment insurance program needed reforms. There were abuses of the program. It wasn't reaching the people that it was, all the people that it was intended to reach. It had some flaws and needed to be fixed. But yet, once again, all those attempts, not only by me, but by a number of my colleagues, in order to provide what have been deemed, I think, even on a bipartisan basis as reasonable reforms, they've been rejected. Rejected not because we had a vote, debate, and it didn't achieve the requisite number of votes for passage, but rejected because the majority leader simply used procedures, once again, to deny the minority any opportunity, and of course that includes the majority also, any opportunity to stand on this floor, offer up an amendment, debate that amendment, have it voted on, accept the result, and then move forward. So the two that I had mentioned, the two reforms, which I thought made eminent sense, I didn't really find much opposition to it, either one of them. One was simply to end a process that was resulting in a waste of taxpayers' money by violation of the law. The law requires that if you apply for unemployment benefits, you must prove that you are able to work and that you have been seeking work, but most importantly, that you're capable of working. The Social Security Disability Insurance Program requires by law that you are unable to work and therefore cannot be eligible for those benefits unless you can prove that through medical process or evidence of your inability to work. And yet the Government Accounting Office has found that a significant number of those here in our country are receiving checks from both programs. Now, you can't have it two ways. You can't say you're not able to work and therefore receive a disability payment, at the same time in the same mailbox receive a government check for unemployment insurance where you have to prove you are willing to work. I don't know what amendment or what provision might be more logical than that in terms of reforming the program. It saves taxpayer money, it eliminates the fraud, and it simply puts the program on a better footing. Given our fiscal plight today, it's the least we could do. But yet, I have been denied, my colleagues who tried to offer the same amendment have been denied the opportunity to do just that. Now, had we had that opportunity to come down here and offer that amendment, we could have had the debate. Those who saw it another way or didn't agree with what we were saying had every opportunity to vote no and turn down that amendment. They would then be accountable, of course, for their no when they went back home, or accountable for their yes one way or another. There are people on both sides of the reform issues. But that is how the Senate is designed to work. The Senate is not designed to simply shut off a debate, to deny the minority the opportunity to offer amendments. We're not asking for passage. We're simply saying, give us a chance to make our case, and we'll have to accept the outcome. And then every member of this body will be responsible for how they voted, and they'll go home and tell their folks, this is why I did such and such, and that's the way the system is designed to work. And yet we find ourselves here in a dysfunctional situation where there is no opportunity to have this debate, no opportunity to vote and let people know where we stand. Maybe it's designed that way. Maybe we don't want people to know where we stand. I don't think anyone in this body here could go home and tell the people that they represent, their constituents, well, we're not going to tell you how we really feel about that. I didn't want to put my vote on record, and therefore we're not going to have an opportunity to even do that. So it's a black mark on the Senate. It's a dysfunctional situation. It's no wonder that the American public holds us in such low regard. This body, which was created by our founding fathers, enshrined in the Constitution, has been labeled as the greatest deliberating body in the world, is simply turned into something totally different and totally opposite from that. We're a rubber stamp Senate, depending on what the majority leader decides that he wants or doesn't want. I think it's a great disservice to the American people. It's a great disservice to this institution. Having had the opportunity to serve here on two different occasions, the contrast between my two tenures here in the United States Senate couldn't be more stark. When I first came, the rights of the minority were recognized by a variety of majority leaders who simply said, this is the Senate. You take tough votes. You have the debate. You allow the minority their rights. And as a consequence, we functioned as the Senate has functioned for nearly, well, for more than 200 years. Suddenly, we're now in a situation where that is not the case. And we have turned this into simply somewhat of a fiefdom here, where the majority leader has full power to deny the minority their rights. I think we'll come to rue the day when this practice was first initiated, rue the day when it has been accepted, because it denies those of us who have had the great honor and privilege of representing our states the opportunity to do just that. So, Mr. President, along with the amendment I had for suitability, which simply gives states more flexibility in terms of providing suitable work for the unemployed, which they, if it's provided to them, they have to accept it or they don't receive the unemployment checks. Those two amendments, two of the many suggested reforms here, I think that would make sense. But whether you agree with that or not, shouldn't we have the opportunity to present to the American people an honest, intellectual, rational debate on legislation so that whether it fails or it passes, we have a full understanding and they have a full understanding of how to measure us in terms of whether or not we were true representatives of those that sent us here. Mr. President, having said that, I will yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.